Hey, Supercross fans, welcome to Beyond the Track with Daniel Blair. I'm Daniel Blair. I want to give a huge shout out to Cooper Tires. Thank you guys for being a part of what we do here at Beyond the Track. Thank you. This is going to be a good one. It's always easier for me when I can go back in time and tell stories and talk about racing with somebody that I've known since they were just a little kid. And now they're all grown up, co-owner, team manager of a Supercross race team. HEP Motorsports, Twisted Tea Suzuki's Dustin Pipes. Dustin, what's going on?
What's going on, Daniel? How are things?
Things are good, man. Like I said, we go way back. Dustin at Little Okie back in the day, and now you're all grown up and doing ownership business things. This is going to be fun. We'll touch on some of those things. But for everyone tuning in who maybe don't know who you are, let's go back to the beginning of your riding and racing, which turned into a pro career. And then, of course, your retirement turns into the co-ownership and management of a race team. But I want to start in the beginning. How'd you get started? And then your dad, is he involved with the racing, obviously, all the way through? But did it come from him? Where was the initial start in racing?
Right. So for us, obviously, my family grew up running races. So it's always kind of been in my blood. I was on a dirt bike when I was 4 or 5, started to race when I was 6. So, my whole life has been racing. Every Saturday, Sunday was spent at one of my dad's races. Many of the times Daniel was there, you were there. So obviously kind of looked up to you a little bit, and more you than your brother. Although I did find your brother a little bit more funny. He's a character. So
and to be fair, you didn't look up to me for long, because around 13, I think you were bigger than me. So this is like way early when you looked up to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, just from when I was little, when I was on 60s and 50s and stuff, you were kind of a pro guy that was either starting to get into SX or in it already. And I just remember you battling with Augie Rodriguez and likes of that. I think you beat him most of the time, but it's just kind of funny where it goes. So yeah, I've grown up on racing my whole life. Obviously transferred into me going pro and doing that for 8 or 9 years. And towards the end of that, I was kind of looking for something else to do, and it turned into starting my own team. My dad, my family's very involved in it. Everything we do here is family based. So, any decisions that are made kind of ran through my dad, my aunt, my mom. Everybody kind of check valves it. So, this race team is very a family effort, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, I've known you guys for a long time, so I was excited to see the transition from you, the racer, to you, the team owner, team manager. And again, you are the P in HEP. Who's the H? Who's the E? And how did that whole thing come together? Because, I know you and your dad's side of this, but there's other people involved. Where'd they come from?
Yep. So the H would be George Holland. Obviously, many people in the sport know who that is. He won 2 national championships for Honda. The E is Billy Izernak. Just a really good guy from around here, loves racing and stuff like that. So when I was still riding, George and Billy kind of had a little team. And then when I was starting to transition off, I was like, hey, I can bring some support from Suzuki and kind of build this thing up. And that's how that kind of got sorted. So they're still very much involved. They're not really there for the racing side of things and stuff. Not so much the day-to-day, but they're very much into racing.
Dustin, you know that the end of the racing crew, right? It gets kind of scary the last, say, year or two when you kind of know you know it's coming and you're looking for that transition. Did you know that this was going to be it all along, or did this kind of just come up, I guess, organically? Or did you, in those early years of your pro career, kind of go, hey, man, when I get my chance and I'm done, I'm going into the team ownership side of things? You know what I'm saying? Was this a plan all along, or was this more organic?
Definitely not a plan. So my second to last year when I was riding, I did a Suzuki intro test at JGR. During that time when that happened, that's when the team RCH was starting to transition out. And man, I was there and I love the bikes and racing is in my blood. And I just sat down with Chris Wheeler and said, hey, is there a spot? Maybe I can put something together and we can put a little effort together and see how it goes. And he said, maybe, and kind of wanted to see what I was going to do with it. And I took it from there and kind of started to build it. This was 3 years ago. And yeah, I wasn't looking for it. Just was like, hey, let's see if this is something that can happen. And everything fell into place. So I'm happy I'm here now. A lot of effort, a lot of money, but we love racing dirt bikes.
Something I've noticed with you, going back to the beginning, Suzuki,
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
Suzuki. Chris Wheeler, obviously, he's the man at Suzuki right now. He's
Yep.
the boss making some of them decisions. So you got that relationship. But what's it about Suzuki? You've been a yellow guy only forever. So it makes sense that you're going to do a team. It's going to be Suzuki. But where's that relationship start? And how is that now working with Chris Wheeler after all these years?
Well, I wasn't always with that brand. I think growing up, I was more Honda and Cowie and stuff like that. And when I turned B, I got a deal with them. Named Brian Noah at the time. He was their amateur sport rep. So, man, I don't even know how old I was. I must have been 16 or so, 15. And, that's a 10-plus year relationship now. The brand's just always been really good, and it's just loyal. I think the bikes are good. They get a little bad mouth right now, but, I mean, this past week at the races, I think we whole shot at 3 out of 4 motos. So we're starting to rock and roll.
They do lose out on a little bit of publicity that I think should be a little more positive. And again, going back to you, you've been super loyal to them, even through some of the rockier times when you're wondering, is Suzuki going to be around next year? Every time you and I have talked, you've been, no, we're Suzuki. We're Suzuki. Have you guys floated around and looked at other manufacturers at all? Or has it been one of those things where you're happy, you're going to stick it out and stick with these guys? Because, I mean, that's what you've done.
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, people have called for sure. I think we've done a good job, but we're very happy where we're at, and I don't see that changing anytime into the future. That's for sure.
So running the team on the management side, you individually are going to be drawing from a lot of experience. Number one, you were a racer, so you know what the riders want, right? And that's sometimes a hard dynamic for team managers and owners to understand, is like what the rider actually wants. But you were a rider, you knew that. You also come from the business side. Your family, I mean, let's say their portfolio of businesses is pretty broad. You guys have done a lot. Do you draw from both of those, or does your dad maybe draw from the business side, you from the riding side, or is it a mixed effort?
It's mixed. I would say a big step for us was the hiring of Clark Jones a year ago. So me racing and stuff, I know what I want, I know the feeling, and I know the direction that the bike should go, but I really don't know what to do to get it there. So if it's the forks or shocks, are we going in on compression or out? I can't really tell you that, but I can tell you what the bike's doing by looking on the track, seeing the riders' reactions and stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I can see. Now, implementing that's more of a crew chief's role, and that's Clark Jones, and he's done a great job of doing that. I don't see that changing going into the future. And then business-wise, man, it's tough because I handle a lot of the sponsorships and the partnerships and all of that kind of stuff. But gosh, I'm such a racer that sometimes you get lost in that. So I think my dad and my family's role is more of like a check valve saying, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing all this. You need to focus on, A, B, and C so we can do the racing, right? And I think that's more of their role, is making sure that I don't forget, the business side of it and just focus on the racing. So that's pretty tough for me because I'm a born racer, and man, I just want to go out there and do good.
Are you living through your riders right now? Like when they're out there, do you still feel it, and they're on the gate and you're feeling it, and when they succeed, you're like, yes, I remember those feelings. When they do bad, you're like, I know those feelings too. I know for a rider, it's hard to transition out. I still feel it even doing TV sometimes. I get caught up in what's happening and I start feeling like what the riders are feeling. You obviously have a bigger attachment because these are your guys. Do you still feel what they feel?
Yeah, you know what's funny is I never understood how like my mom or dad could be nervous or like very excited when I was racing. I was always like, man, it's me doing it. What's the big deal? And now watching from the outside and being involved and you see every mistake, it's so weird because like you would know when you're riding and you make a mistake, it doesn't seem as big as it looks in person, right? So like you might have a crazy swap, but the whole time when you're riding, you know you're going to save it. To where when you're watching it in person, you're like, that's 50-50, right? So the emotions are hard for me. Max was leading this weekend. It's hard for me not to touch on that. And I was way out on the track cheering him on, trying to move lappers and do all this stuff. So my emotions definitely run high. I don't think that's going to change ever. Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, so here's a tough question then.
Yeah.
There was a lot of times this year in Supercross where the gate was super yellow in the LCQ, and it was a lot of your guys.
Not good.
What's going through your brain when your guys are battling it out? Because obviously, I would assume you care about them all equally. You want the best for them. You want them to do the best for you. Mm-hmm. But when they're getting into it and they have their own individual goals going on, are you ever like, dude, you guys need to cool it? Or is it, hey, just do what you got to do? I mean, what are you going through right then? Because as a racer, I know what you're feeling, whether you're the guy in front or the guy in behind. But when they're both yours, what do you feel, and how do you act when you get back to the truck?
Luckily, in the last chance, we really haven't had a spot where a guy was 4 and 5, to where one's not going to make it, but the other is. So I really haven't had to mess with that, but Adam Intignap took out Kyle Cunningham in one of the last Salt Lake rounds for the final transfer.
Yeah, he did.
And
he did.
Was that a bad meeting after? It was not good. So honestly,
so what do you do there? You're a former rider. You know both their perspectives. Like, how do you manage that?
So just taking that taking that certain pass, walking back, I didn't think it was a good pass. So I just told Adam straight up that, that wasn't a good pass and that's not what is expected of a teammate. And, I can't really do anything to the guy. I can't fine him, can't hit him on the wrist. He's a racer. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go out there and tell him not to do it. So it's just a weird spot. There's no right or wrong, part there. There's no right or wrong answer. Just say, that's not what is expected of a teammate, and I don't want to see it going forward. Everybody in that rig's a racer. So it's kind of hard to mellow that out,
You got to be stern a little bit, but it's Adam Intignap. It's the 7 deuce deuce, man. Like, you guys probably smiling and happy, and even when he's getting a slap on the wrist, he's probably loving it and probably writing lyrics.
Very quiet. It was very quiet. That's the most quiet I've ever seen Adam.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't say much.
Oh, man.
But he had a good main event. He had a good heat race. It is what it is. He raced good, so you can't take that away from him.
I understand that. Now, going back again, in your racing, you spent some time with Ted Parks.
Yep.
So you got to see a little bit of how a team operated. His deal is different than yours. You are you're a one brand title sponsor. Like, you have a one unit team. He's a little more spread out. He's got sponsors, but he lets everyone be free. Did you learn things from him in those years that you've been able to kind of, translate into what you're doing now? Or was those just so separate deals that they don't really cross as much?
No, I mean, I think I learned a little bit from Ted. One thing I learned is why, as a kid, when I was under that program, obviously I was a rider. I was a little bit more of a punk. I didn't see things in the perspective that I do now. So now, more than anything, I've taken away kind of why Ted acted certain ways and said, no, these need to be put away in this certain area and stuff like that. So it's more just being organized and making sure things work efficient. And I think that's what Ted's good at, and that's something that I've tried to implement into my program.
And when we're talking about your program, obviously it's building every year. Like you're adding to it. You're getting better results. You're getting more sponsors. You're going back to the beginning of the starting of the team. What were the biggest challenges in starting the team? The riders? Is it the bikes and parts side of it? The travel? Like what right now you can look back now that you're a couple of years in and go, man, year one, this was tough. What was it?
And, I think year one, it was more tough because I was riding and managing at the same time. And going into it, a lot of people told me how hard it was going to be. And I kind of just looked at them and said, nah, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's not that big a deal. I'm different than everyone else because there's been a couple of guys that have tried to do it. And, man, it's a lot of workload. And a lot of the times I would, have my laptop at the track trying to do stuff in between when I was riding. And it was really affecting both areas. I couldn't manage well and race well. So both really hindered. Going forward, I think the main thing that always kind of irked me was even still to this day is the amount of people that want tickets at the last minute. It is like not that easy to get tickets, so everybody wants tickets the day of the race. And it's like, man, I got 50 other things to do. I can't stand by the gate and hand you some tickets. So that's the thing that's kind of funny that people don't really understand. Travel is a huge part of kind of what we do. So just making sure that all the guys can access their flights and their hotels, right? I think that's something that we've been continually trying to build is how can we be more efficient there? So there's no problems, there's no hiccups, and, everybody can get to their hotel, their flight, right on
time. If you're looking at the teams in this sport, typically a lot are in Southern California.
Yep.
Then you have some bases out in Florida, you know what I mean? But for you guys, you're in California, but you're in a unique area. You're in Fresno, center of the state. You do your own thing there. I obviously got to spend some time with you there this year to watch the guys ride in the preseason. Mm-hmm. How important is it for you to have that base at home for you? Does that make things a lot more simple just for the daily life too? Because you see teams always want to end up in SoCal. To this point, you guys have been pretty firm about staying home and building your program based on where you're from. Is that something you want to continue moving forward? And is that challenging sometimes, being a couple hours away from where everything's at?
It's definitely challenging. We do kind of have a second base now in SoCal. So we've we've started to move that way. But going into the next years and stuff like that, we definitely want to keep our base here in Fresno. Our stuff's very family. We're close knit, and we want to keep it that way. And racing is a big part of our lives and stuff, and we want to do it and we want to have fun. And if it's not here, then it's not like we're a part of it. So we definitely want to keep a base here, keep it to where the riders have to come and train and ride, and but we want to make sure that they're able to get their work done. That's why we have a track here, go to the gym, house, whatever it is. We definitely want to build a base here in Fresno, keep it here. We're only a one-day ship from SoCal, but we are also cognizant that we need to have a base in SoCal, and we've moved towards that.
That might end up being the best way. I mean, you can keep your base, but then have your, like you said, that second location where you have the ability to get to the resources that you need to. Again, it's not that far of a drive, but man, if you can continue to manage and keep both those, that might be the best thing. Because I mean, as well as anybody, you get stuck in SoCal for too long.
I hate it over there.
I do too, man.
I can't do it.
I mean, I know you got to be there, right? You've got to have your foot over there because you need to be able to have the access. But at the same time, I got to imagine having your own place out in Madera, just like, it's got to feel good to be alone some days.
It's good because I feel like they move a little slower. We are in California, so everybody's pretty fast paced, but we don't have to deal with so much traffic. If I need to go somewhere that's 20 miles away, it's 20 minutes. It's not 2 hours. So that's a plus to being here. And, there's not a lot of the industry that's here, but this is where our base is. This is where our business is. And, we plan that way.
Let's talk. This is a two-part question, kind of a three-part. First one is, looking back on your racing career, what stands out you'd say is maybe the biggest highlight that you had individually that you would say, this is my favorite moment of my racing career? And then tell me your favorite moment or highlight as a team manager and co-owner now. And then the third question is, which one now feels better?
And
Of those two.
So a couple kind of spots stand out in my mind. Amateur wise, this is kind of funny. When I was a B rider, my dad was always doing these bounty hunter races, and we did one at Salinas. We did it a lot of times at Salinas. You were there, and I remember doing that one time, and you weren't there, but two other guys that I never really raced with was there, and one of them was your brother Vincent. The other one was Turbo Reef, and I never raced those guys. They were pros. They were a lot older than me. I didn't really know where my speed was. I was a young kid. And I remember racing that and beating them. And that was a big deal for me just because I didn't really know if I was good or not. And, you know, Turbo was doing good, making mains. Vincent was right there. So when I did that, it kind of said, okay, I'm actually doing the right thing here. So that really stood out in my mind. And then I think I went and won a bounty. They do this end of the race, or this end of the night race. You know, you've won a bunch, to where the fastest guy starts last and whatnot. And I won a couple of those the next year and stuff. So that was a big deal for me, just because I grew up always wanting to do that. And then transferring into my pro career, I'd say the best race for me was at Budds Creek. I won the RC Hard Charger Award for passing the most guys. And, you know, I think I got 15th or 16th. I was never a top 10 guy or anything like that. I was a good rider. I was decent. I was a decent pro. I was a good rider, but never one that was, you know, going to challenge for the podium or top 5 or top 10. So that stood out to me. My last race at Glen Helen really stood out to me because I was running the races and stuff like that, and I knew that was my last race. So I kind of gave it all I had, and I was able to top 20 with not riding really any or doing anything like that. So that was a big relief off my shoulders, knowing that, hey, even when I'm not doing it and whatnot, and I'm transitioning out, I can still go out and do good. In terms of racing, being a team manager, obviously this past weekend was our first podium. It's kind of hard for me not to touch on that. Got the podium goggles up there. That's definitely what stands out. And then in Boston, our first year in Boston, we transferred 4 guys into the main event. So the Boston SX, I don't know many other teams that have done that. Transferred 4 guys in the main. That was huge for us, and really big milestone.
Well, especially in Supercross, because you think 250 teams have 4 guys, but they're always split. So how often does a team put 4 of them in?
Yeah.
In one night? I mean, who were those riders? Were you one of them?
Yep. So I was one. Henry Miller, Cedric Suberez, which we picked up midway through the season, and then Kyle Cunningham, who was on the team this past year. I don't even know how I made the main event that round. It was a struggle, but that was big for us. I'm not sure of any 450 teams that have done that. I don't want to have 4 riders ever again. That's way too many riders. But yeah, we had a good time that first year.
That's one of those nights where you go, yes, that was awesome, and I will never do this again ever. I'm trimming the team down. That's too stressful. It's too much.
Yeah, me and my dad, we always fight because he wants more guys, more bikes out there, and I'm like, man, we need to just do like 2 or 3 and call it good, and you know, do these goods. He's always wanted to hire every guy out there and give him a shot, and you know, just build the team that way.
Do you? I know we've talked about this in the past, but we've never gotten far with the conversation. But do you want to eventually bridge off into 250 guys or have 2 separate teams? I know your dad probably bring them all on. I get it, but is that part of the plan going forward that you would like to, or is it in motion, either splitting into two or adding 250 guys? I mean, what are your thoughts? Because I know we've talked about it before, but never fully.
Yeah, I think that's a long-term plan. I think you look at what Bobby Hewitt's doing or did up until this year, and he's built a huge program, a great program. He split off into a big bike and a lights. If we ever get to that size and, you know, have that type of sport and stuff, which we are getting there, I think we're a couple years down the line. But if we ever get to that level, I think that's something that we would look to do.
As far as sponsorship goes, you guys just made a big jump. You got a new title sponsor. We kind of talked about it. I knew you were working on it, and it's out now. You got the Twisted Tea guys on. I mean, how rewarding is that for you? Again, you handle the sponsorship stuff. So when it comes to Thor, who's on your hat, or Suzuki, you have these relationships that have been there for a long time. So it was a nice transition. This is different. I mean, you went out hunting and got yourself a title sponsor. Does it feel pretty good to lock that down and know, like, hey, we're really growing this thing. We're branching out of the industry and bringing some stuff in. I got to imagine that feels good.
Well, I think it feels good just in the sense of that, you know, we can show to outside the industry sponsors the amount of exposure that motocross brings as a sport. You know what I mean? Racing dirt bikes is huge. We have a huge audience, and our fans are loyal. And that's really what, you know, I want to show Twisted Tea going in throughout the years and stuff like that is, you know, just how big of an impact this sport can make. The sport as a whole is on the rise. We're growing. We're still small, but I mean, we are growing huge. So I just want to show these outside the industry sponsors what this sport can bring, and whether it's for my team or for another or for the series, whatever it is, I just want people to see return on their investments, and that's the main thing that we're trying to do here. Not knock on a ton of doors. Twisted Tea is, I mean, they mesh well with our fans, so I think it's going to take off.
You're always looking for that fit too, right? I mean, like,
right.
The My Pillow guy seems like a good dude. Probably not the best title sponsor for Supercrossing. I don't know. I'm just saying. But you get in the Twisted Teas, or you get the Monster. You get these companies involved. It does fit with the demo. So kudos to you for not only pulling one, but pulling one that fits right in. Again, no offense, My Pillow guy, but just, I don't know. My Pillow HEP Suzuki doesn't sound as cool as Twisted Tea Suzuki. That's just my opinion.
I think he's building respirators or something now, but he seems like an okay guy.
Yeah, he seems like a great dude. I don't know if it's a great fit for the sport. As far as riders goes, this is going to be an easy and hard question.
Yeah.
You've had some riders now. You've got some years in it. You've gone through some guys. Who is just the best guy you've ever worked with where you're just like, God, that guy was so easy and fun, and I just loved every day? And then the hard question is, who's just a knucklehead like A-Ray that you've had to deal with along the – I'm just joking, A-Ray. But who's that rider where it's been, hey, I love you, man, but you're challenging. Give me the good and the bad.
Okay. Man, I don't even know if I want to answer the second one.
You got it. I'm going to put you on the spot. I gave you an out. I already said A-Ray. I already said it, so.
All right. Well, so the thing that's weird is, you know, certain riders have certain traits that you like about them. Adam Intignap, who obviously we've had for the second year, we plan on having back next year. He's very easy to work with. Fans love him. He's a really good tester, actually. He tries his hardest. He's a little too hard on himself sometimes, but, you know, he's good with the fans. He's easy to work with. That's a trait that I can take out and say that I like from him. Kyle Cunningham, who we've had on the team for 2 years. He's a professional. He goes to the track every day, puts in his motos, no matter what happens. There's no excuses. That's something I can say I like from Kyle. Max Anstey, who has definitely been our best rider so far, you know, he is very, very easy to work with as well. And
let me stop you right there real quick. Is that surprising? Just, I mean, you landed a big fish. I mean, the guy has won the Nations. He's won GPs. That's a high-profile guy. You would expect him to come in and maybe be a little bit tougher to work with. Are you surprised with how easy he's been and how well it's meshed? it just seems like that would be you would think from the outside looking in, he'd be a tough one, but it's been pretty good, huh?
No, I'm not, because before we even signed them, me and Max, we actually talked for 6 to 8 months leading up to it. So this was a long process on getting Max to come over from England over to the U.S. And I knew his character, so that kind of was the main thing. So even when things aren't right, which they aren't right sometimes, you know, the forks or the shocks could be off. We could not like the way the power delivers that day on a certain surface. Things can be wrong. But the good thing about Max is he'll go and tell you what's wrong, what he's feeling, and let you as a team figure out how to fix it for him. So he's very, very easy to work with. He doesn't say, I need 3 clicks on the compression here, da-da-da-da-da. And that might be the wrong way to go. You know, he says, here's what I'm feeling. You guys figure it out. He's very trustworthy. Thankfully, we have a really good mechanic for him. We have a really good crew chief, to where he trusts us and he translates what he's feeling so we can make the proper changes.
So just that relationship that was building ahead of time,
Right.
There's a bond enough built to where now that you're in the trenches doing the work and going through things, like you said, as a team manager, you're going through things all the time.
Right.
There's enough of a relationship built that you're getting through those things on a positive, where, I mean, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes a couple things here and there just leads relationships astray.
Mm-hmm.
So far, you're pretty happy with the battles you guys have gone through, and you like the way he acts towards those things.
Yeah, and I think our team's a little different because we have this huge family aspect to it. And so we don't really treat it like a race team. Obviously, we're spending money and we want to do the best we can and represent our sponsors and do all these things. But at the end of the day, this was built on family. And from a racer, you know, I know how much pressure that you put on yourself to go and do good. So any really outside force, you know, sometimes isn't warranted. It's going to have the wrong effects on it. So I think we have a really good environment where we know what our job is, right? But we keep it lighthearted. And I think it helps our guys perform their best. So I think that's something that Max has seen, Adam's seen, the other riders that have been in the program.
And the pain in the butt. Who is it?
Oh,
who?
Shit.
Yeah, you tried to move on. I'm not letting you move on.
That's jacked.
Sorry.
So I don't think anybody's really been a pain in the butt, but I will say that I think some riders will learn certain things as they grow older. So Ryan Brees this past year, he was our fill-in for Max when he was hurt. Ryan is still learning how to test, right? So he doesn't know how to say what the bike's doing and how to implement it to Clark or any of the mechanics, right? So I think for him, it's more about learning. Now, Ryan off the bike as a person and stuff is badass, and he tries super hard on the racetrack. But sometimes that can get lost because he doesn't know how to translate what he's feeling. And I think that's something for him, he'll just learn over time. It's not a negative. It's more on something like, hey, let's learn and let's get better in this aspect, because I think Ryan Brees has a lot of room to grow. I mean, he got 11th in a main this year. That's huge. You know what I mean? So if that was one thing I was going to nitpick, and that's a small nitpick, it would be that. And that's just more something for him to improve on, not something that's a minus on him, you know?
Right. Do you feel too, just based on your racing experience, we all start out as racers and we know nothing about the bike at all. We don't even know. We just hold on and go. Then we start learning about the bike, and I almost feel like it sends us backwards, because now we start questioning things and we're like picky, but we don't even know why. And we're like, what's the, and then once you kind of like learn, then you go, it's like a 1 step back, 2 step forward thing. So he might be in that stage where he's like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but it ain't right. He might end up being an incredible test rider someday. Jacob Hayes is a good friend of mine. He might have been the worst when I first met him. And now he's like really technical and smart, because he went through, like you said, those growing growing pains and learning how to communicate those feelings. But do you ever feel like when you initially start learning how to mess with the bike, you go backwards first? You just, everything's a problem and you have no clue why.
Well, I think you go backwards because you don't know what you're saying, really. A lot of the times I've found out that, if the shock's too soft or something, it's because it's sitting in a weird part of the shock, right? So you might need to go stiffer so it holds up more and you're in a different level. There's just stuff that you're constantly learning and stuff like that. As a rider, you don't understand that. It's too harsh because you don't see where it's sitting. You can't see it because you're riding it. You just say, oh, it's too harsh. We need to make it softer, to where that's actually going to make it stiffer because you're riding even lower down into the stroke, to where there's less travel. So I think you're constantly growing. I think being able to video yourself and see what the bike's doing so you can, I guess, check yourself as you're getting those thoughts might be something to help with that.
That makes sense. Maybe visualizing, so it's not a feeling thing. It's something you can actually see.
Right.
Because then you can compare. You're like, oh, so when it feels like that, that's what it looks like. Now I get it. But that makes sense. Last question for you. And look, you're a racer, so you're never satisfied, right? I mean, that's just who we are. We're never satisfied. So even though I'd say 2020 was probably a good year for you guys in a lot of ways, I would assume you're not satisfied. You want more. What's the outlook on 2021? I know we can't really get into the riders yet. It's a weird time of year, but at least what's your goals? What does HEP Twisted Tea Suzuki got to do next year to maybe satisfy Dustin Pipes?
Well, for one, I don't think we're ever satisfied, right? I don't think you're going to be satisfied until you win a championship, which is a long ways away for us. We know we're still building and stuff like that. So, man, I think just continuing to set new career highs, right? Whether it's for the team or for the riders that we hire, I think is something big. And, just as a team manager, you can kind of see the way your team works and, if the pieces are right and stuff. I know, like this past few years that we've gotten started, we've had some moving pieces. We've had some mechanics go in and out. We've had different members, truck drivers, whatever it is, and it really takes a while before all the pieces of the puzzle fit. And I think that's something as the years grow on that you're going to see those pieces kind of come together. And I think we're there right now. We have really good mechanics in Dave and Ryan, badass crew, Chief and Clark Jones. Hopefully you guys can bleep out me saying the A word. But and our truck drivers, our media is good. I think, that's something that you can show that you're getting better at, is how your team function and works. And I think that's a big component of future success. So as long as that's growing, that's huge for us. And obviously we want results too. That's really big for us. And then making sure our partners are happy, right? So we want to make sure that we can connect them to the fans of SX. And that's big, whether it's activation, promotion, or getting on the TV. Those are all big components to us, is showing them that we can provide a return on investment. And I think that's the first part of running a race team. It gets lost sometimes because you're a racer and you want to do good, but really showing the people that support you that they're making the right decision is huge. And as long as we continue to do that, I think we'll continue to grow. So that's the main thing that we want to see in 2021.
That's awesome. I'm gonna sneak one more question in. How's Aaron Pipes doing? Actually, I got two questions. I'm sorry. How's Aaron Pipes doing? Is he loving this? I have to imagine he's having a good time.
Yeah, he is. He's in the other office. So funny story. We actually share office. My dad's desk is just, you can't really see it. He's just to the left of me.
You booted him. You booted him out for this.
Yes. I kicked him out. So he's like right on the other wall, sitting at the other desk. So it's kind of funny. I'm sure he's listening and whatnot. And yeah, he's definitely pumped. My dad raced. We ran races. It's so in our blood that we're all just really, really into it. And he ran races forever with you and stuff. So we have a good time. It's definitely in our blood.
Do you know what my other question might be?
No, I don't want to know.
You do. Yeah, you do.
I don't want to know.
Same question I've asked you probably 4 times in the last 4 months. Running races, you say it's in the family blood. You talk about growing up, you looked up to me. Little Okie, when's the series schedule coming out? My kid's freaking out, man. He does it every summer. Come on, Dustin. Bang on the door. Tell Aaron Pipes, your dad, we got to get the series going. When's Little Okie schedule coming out, man? I'm starting to freak out.
Man, we keep on starting to push it back because we don't know what's going on with these races. But once it cools down here and the state of California settles down a little bit, I know COVID's been really tough. It's been affecting everyone, and it's just, we want to make sure when we run the races, it's at the right time and we can keep people safe. And that's the main thing for us. You know, we want to run them. It's 110 right now, and people are still wearing masks. So we gotta know what's going on in the world before we can make a move there. But Little Okie's definitely going to be back. We'll probably be running by the end of this year and get it going. So yeah, we're pumped. And you know what's cool is this interview, it's kind of crazy because as a rider, I never really collected riders' jerseys. And the one jersey, well, I have 2, but one of them is your Geico jersey where you got 6th or 7th place. I think it was your best result ever, but it's kind of funny that I got that Fox Geico jersey. So it's pretty cool that I'm doing this interview with you. And yeah.
You know what sucks is I don't even have any jerseys from that. So now that I know where one is,
I will give it back.
Once you send that back home, dude, I don't have one. I'll trade you for a pair of pants.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Well, Dustin, thanks for coming on, man. I knew this was going to be fun, and I respect what you guys are doing. Like you said, you're getting better every year, taking it serious, building a brand for yourself. Everyone's starting to recognize that HEP Suzuki is on the up. And then again, bringing in outside industry sponsors and getting them results. That's what does it. So congrats, man. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. And again, thanks for coming on Beyond the Track.
Sounds good. Thanks, Daniel.